So, Dale Bates tournament, always a good time of year.
Yeah, it's a great time of year. It's my sixth Dale Bates tournament here, so it's always fun to host your own tournament. I've been places where you don't have one, and I know a lot of coaching buddies in the NWAC don't have one, so we're very fortunate to have that. I just like to win one here, sooner or later. I think we got to the championship game last year. I think it was, and lost to it was Northwest Elite. Was that last year?
Yeah, that was Yeah.
So, but we got some good teams. Spokane is here. They're undefeated, and Pierce is here. SWAC, Umpqua. So there's some really good teams. And I think we're progressing. We're not progressing as fast as I'd like. I think we got 10. It looks like we're going to end up getting our two kids that are trying to get eligible, Tyree and Marcus. So that's going to add 11 freshmen and 3 sophomores. That's sort of out of whack, out of balance. But I think our sophomores have done a really good job of trying to step up and be leaders. And they're 3 non-vocal guys. They're more action guys. So I appreciate the job they're doing. Some guys have stepped up that we didn't think were going to, and some guys have taken 2 steps back that we thought were going to step up. So I think it's sort of the maturation process. Guys are trying to find their way. We still haven't got our identity. I was hoping that would have come a lot sooner than it has. But working hard, grinding it out, and I think some good things will happen eventually.
And do you want to talk about maybe the people that have stepped up that you mentioned?
Yeah, Derek Cornell. He's a kid that's been out of high school, I think, 3 years now, and he's 21 and from Sherwood, Oregon, and he bugged me about coming and sort of pestered me, and I'm like, yeah, sure, come on. And he's been a real pleasant surprise. I mean, he's been starting for us. He's about 6'6", 6'7", real athletic. Broke his nose in practice yesterday, but he's wearing one of those funky masks, and he's wearing a mask that looks like a junior high wrestling coach designed. It just has tape on it and just looks awful. But he's really stepped up and done a good job. I think trying to think who else here. We knew Tyler and Alex Coleman were both going to be good ones and stepping up. Ketchum, he's a sophomore, has been steady Eddie. Archie Garrett has totally come out of the blue. He is the second best player that's walked in the gym as a walk-on that I didn't know that I've ever had in my career, if that makes sense. I mean, I had a guy named Gerard Warren down in California. He just walked in my gym and ended up being a starter for us for 2 years and was sort of a freak of nature, can jump out of the gym. But Archie does a lot of things. Archie, plays defense. He crashes real hard on the boards. He's just sort of a man's man kind of guy, Has an Actors Guild. I think it's called an Actors Guild card or SAG card, whatever. He's been in some movies. His dad's an actor. So he lived in L.A. for a couple of years and pursued acting. So he's just sort of a guy that gets after it, doesn't let pressure get to him. He's always trying to crack a joke and keep things light. So he's been a great addition. So 2 guys just completely out of the blue that I was interested in but didn't spend a lot of time recruiting or have stepped up and done a really good job. So we're excited for them. Now if we can get the guys that we recruited to step up. And I think Richard Seamster's a kid that we spent a lot of time on. Signed a Division II, NCAA Division II scholarship to Northwest Nazarene in Idaho. He's coming along a little slower than we wanted, but he had a good weekend last weekend, and if we can get him to settle down a little bit, I think he'll be fine.
Yeah. Can you kind of maybe just a couple of the other players go over who's kind of doing what for you offensively, defensively?
Yeah, Little D's leading us. He's one of our guys that can put the ball on the floor pretty much with anybody and try to get to the rim. Does a good job. Levi Green is a kid that is a Springfield High School kid, a Miller. Shoots the ball real well. He's just sort of in a funk. I think he's growing up, trying to find his way in college basketball. And he's a little erratic right now, but I have a ton of faith in him, and he keeps bringing it. And he's improved a lot, but I think he needs to keep coming. Levi Strandberg is another kid we thought was going to be super duper. That sort of has the freshman blues a little bit. He's not maturing as quick as we wanted. 6'6" kid, crashes, could shoot the three for a 6'6" kid, was pretty nice. Good attitude, works hard. Alec Brazil is a guy that great defender, can pass the ball, sticks occasional jumper. He's a leader on the team. Just a quiet leader. We're happy to have him because he can really defend. Ketchum, Daniel Ketchum is a sophomore from Sisters, and he can stick the three. He's a good defender, can rebound, do a lot of different things. We talked about Rich, and Gonzalo Duran from South Medford High School is a really hard-nosed player for us. Hits the open guy. He's a yes coach kind of guy, which it's great to have those guys that just rock and roll. And then Nick Lindsay, is with us, 3-point shooter. He had an odd game down at Redwoods. He usually bangs out some threes and makes good passes, but he was just off a little bit enough to let it affect him. And he had a rough game against Redwoods, and if he would have maybe been half of the normal player that he was, we would have went. I think we would have beat Redwoods no problem. Him and Tyler Coleman, both of our studs, had just off games. They weren't awful games, but they were just off, and you could tell that it affected our team. And then I'm excited about bringing Marcus Allridge back, or showing him to our fans. He's a freshman from Oakland, California, and then Tyree Newman is also a 6'6" freshman, redshirted for us last year. They're going to be academically eligible here after the Bates tournament, so they'll be able to play in the crossover, which we're excited about.
Yeah. And then I noticed Tyler Coleman had that one huge game, 28 points I think, and then I think 18 the game after that, or maybe a couple games after that. So
I think he's on the radar of a lot of people defensively. I know Redwoods came out and really shadowed him and got up in his grill when he catch the ball, so he didn't have a free shot. And he came down, probably midway through the second half and banged out 2 threes. He's a pretty crafty guy. If he can play without the ball a little bit better, I think it's going to help our team and help his game. But he can stroke it, definitely. He's a fun guy to have, and it's a good group of guys. We're looking to get his brother going. His brother earned a starting spot, Alex Coleman, and he's just a bull in a china store. If he could, maybe take a deep breath every now and then and not press offensively, he's going to really be able to help us. So we got some guys stepping up, some guys not stepping up. We're sort of just a big salad right now with just cheese and tomatoes and dressing and croutons, and we're trying to make sure everybody knows their role and trying to iron out some things and sort of make sure that we're playing more as a team, more cohesive.
Yeah, and then just in terms of the games you've had since I got to see you, kind of what's been some of the themes or.
One of the things I think is inconsistency. I think there's times where we'll play great defense and get stops, and our defensive rotation is good, our ball pressure is good, our help side is good, and then all of a sudden we'll just be not engaged. All of a sudden it's we're like the little kid playing with the butterfly out in left field. When the ball gets hit to him, all of a sudden we're not focused, ready to go. But then all of a sudden we're snapping right back into being engaged. And I think that goes a little bit with having 9 freshmen and having some growing pains. And they call them growing pains because they hurt. They're not as pleasant to go through. But so I think that's one of our things we have rolling. And I think on the good side of that is we have a lot of guys that are coachable, that want to do the right thing. There's no off the court issues. So I think it's going to come. I think when this team figures out how good they can be, and they can gain some consistency on the offensive end, the defensive end, I think it will really show some strides. So that's what I'm looking for. Once they take ownership of this team, I think that's when it'll happen. And last year's team took ownership right away. This year's group, just being so many new guys trying to figure out what's up, it's a challenge. I forgot, I really got my teaching hat on of making sure that, that we're getting better and that we're doing things the right way and stuff. So that's been a fun deal to get, back to teaching and getting this situated. So
yeah. And then just other than obviously wins, what are goals you're hoping to accomplish, things you're hoping to see out of Friday, and then the rest of the weekend.
It's always my goal to win one of these preseason tournaments. You know, it'd be fun to win one of them. We've come close a couple times over the years. Looking for that. Looking for this group, like I said, to mature, you know, and figure out the journey part and the consistency. If we can gain some consistency, and I know I'm not being unrealistic, we need to have that consistency and be engaged for 40 minutes, because I just don't know if that's possible at the junior college level. I mean, last year was an exception because we had older guys and that kind of thing. But, you know, if we can gain consistency for longer stretches, I think that would make our lives easier to be able to have a chance to win. And right now I think we're not preaching winning, we're preaching and teaching the things you're supposed to do to have a chance to win. You know, blocking out, challenging jump shots, forcing baseline, on offense, valuing the basketball. You know, one of our games we had 28 turnovers up in Tacoma, or up in the Pierce tournament. And I don't care what league you're in, if you're playing Old Man Church League, if you're playing in the WNBA, if you're playing NCAA Division I, if you turn it over 28, 29 times, you're not going to have a chance to win. So I think I hope that we've learned that lesson, but you never know at the community college level if we have or not. And we have all new we have D back, but we have a lot of new guards that are handling the ball and throwing it all over the gym.
Yeah.
So if we can gain that consistency, I think it'll make our lives a lot easier.
This is a little off topic, but yeah, I saw that 28 turnovers, and then I looked at the points off turnovers. I expected to see it horribly out of proportion.
Yeah.
Somehow they only had they didn't have as many points off turnovers compared to you guys as it should have been. What kind of was the deal?
It was a helter-skelter game. It was definitely a preseason junior college basketball game where literally the ball was going off of grandma on the first roll. There was a few air balls and we grind it out in practice and we don't take very many days off. And I just think it's that time of year, is where things get a little crazy, especially at the community college level, because essentially every team you coach at the community college level, it's a one-time shot for that group of guys. There's always some drama with some freshmen that they're not going to come back. There's some freshmen are good enough to move on to the 4-year level. Some kids can't afford school. I mean, there's just an array of things that happen. And we do our best, academically and trying to make sure our guys are on track and all that stuff. But it's just sometimes it's life, But I think it was just that time of year where things are helter-skelter, a little mess, crazy kind of thing. So
yeah.
Sometimes you just put your hand in your head and you think, oh my goodness, As a coach, you want to blow the whistle and stop and coach them up and that kind of thing. And sometimes you're calling timeouts like crazy to coach them. But sometimes it's just like having kids. You sort of just throw them in the deep end of the pool, hold your nose, jump in, and hopefully good things will happen, and you taught them well. So it's just a maturation process that we're looking forward to continuing.
Yeah.